Okay, I think we're in business here. So we're live on Zoom and live on YouTube. So good afternoon, good evening, good morning to everyone, wherever you happen to be and whenever you happen to be watching. Uh, my name is Mark Mamagonian. I'm the Director of Academic Affairs for the National Association for Armenian Studies and Research, and we're very glad you can take time out of your Sunday to be with us. I want to mention one upcoming event which will take place next Sunday, September 27th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And this will be a group presentation or a panel on Byblos Keljik's Armenian American Sketches, Stories of Armenians in the Early 20th Century. And this program is co-sponsored by the Armenian Cultural Organization of Minnesota, the Armenian Studies Program at California State University, Fresno, the Society for Armenian Studies, and NASER. And it is with the participation of the co-editors and translators of the wonderful new publication, Armenian American Sketches by Byblos Keljik. And the participants will be Christopher Atamian, Barlo Dermogadichian, Luan Matosian, Vartan Matiosian, and myself. There are many other programs, NASER programs, in the process of being planned for the fall, to say nothing of all the other programs that are being planned by other groups. And as always, I want to thank the organizations and individuals who collaborate with us on our events year in and year out. No one deserves more recognition and more thanks than Maggie Mangasarian Goshen, the director of the Arat Eskejian Museum in Mission Hills. And I would like to say hi to Maggie and ask her to say a few words as always. Maggie.
Thank you, Mark. Welcome on behalf of Arat Eskejian Museum. Thank you for joining us for today's event. Today's subject is very dear to my heart because I'm a product of Beirut, Lebanon, born and raised there, shaped there. And today I know that there was a global prayer service and fundraisers for Armenians in Lebanon and Lebanese people. So my heart goes out to all of you there and for all those families who lost their loved ones. And I encourage the resilience of the people and the youth for bringing Lebanon back to what it was before. And may God bless you all. Today's event is special because of the subject matter deals with events and places in Lebanon. And no other person I can think about except my good friend, Misak Kelechian, whom by accident I met in 2005 when I read about his heroic efforts in Lebanon. And because of my friend Barrett, I connected to Misak and our journey began since 2007 in Los Angeles. Misak has given several events in the museum and has also been instrumental helping me with our first conference, international, with the presence of Robert Fisk and other international scholars on Near East relief. Misak has lectured numerous times about subjects relevant to Armenians in Lebanon, and he continues archiving and going to archival places where pictures and photos and documents have been forgotten, but he makes sure that it's relevant today to what's we're going on today, and he brings it up to the open. And I'm sure today's event is no different. I hear from that Mark Misak, you've gone to extensive research for today's presentation. Growing up in Lebanon, we went through many camps. Our school bus used to drive through those camps. So I had some classmates from those camps that Misak is sharing with us today. But I don't know much about Sanjak camp or the Sidon bird's nest. And today's highlight is really brings me a lot of memories. Back to you, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. Yes, so indeed, our speaker today is Maurice Misak Kelechian. And Mr. Kelechian is an electrical engineer by profession and an independent researcher by avocation, I guess. And he is known for his research and discoveries on Armenian historical documents, photos, monuments, and heritage sites. And I think all of these come into play today. And in particular, his work on Near East relief and on the Antura Orphanage in Lebanon, where he has made significant contributions. He currently resides in Los Angeles, where he will be speaking from today. And he will present a visual tour of two sites of great importance to Armenians who settled in Lebanon in the 1920s and 30s after the Armenian genocide, the Bird's Nest Orphanage and Sanjak camp. So I know he has a lot of material to get to, so I will turn things over to him. But first, I will note that in order to submit questions today, you must use the Zoom Q&A function, and we welcome your comments on the topic of today's presentation. And I will turn things over to Misak Kelechian.
All right. I'm sharing my screen. You got it? Is it good to go, I guess?
Good to go.
Okay. A real estate agent will always tell you location, location, location. In history, obviously, knowing the physical location is so crucial. In today's presentation, my focus is exactly that. It's a visual tour of an unknown orphanage, as well as the last Armenian refugee camp, which lasted into the 21st century, our days. The places that we will visit are one of the oldest in the world. For example, Beirut, 3000 BC, so you can add 2020 to it, and as well as Sidon, which is 4000 before Christ, and Jubail, Byblos, Lebanon, is 5000 BC. The 10 oldest cities in the world, 3 of them are in Lebanon. However, the oldest cities in the world have faced deep unrest through their long histories. Tragically, some are still in that status. The Danish missionary Maria Jacobsen rented a palace for her 400 toddlers, and it was initially in Sidon, where the Bird's Nest Orphanage was formerly named. Not to confuse with the current Bird's Nest Orphanage located in Byblos or Jubail, north of Lebanon. How did these children end up in Lebanon? Between 1921 and 1922, a huge Armenian deportation took place from Cilicia and other parts of Turkey into Syria and Lebanon. Nearest Relief expands their efforts to help these people, providing them food, medical care, opening orphanages, shelters to these refugees. This caravan picture that you see is about 5,000 children who were led by Swiss missionary Papa Kunzler all the way from Turkey to Syria and Lebanon, an 825 kilometer or 513 miles trip. Maria Jacobsen was a Danish missionary in Harpert and a key witness to the Armenian genocide. Jacobsen wrote the diaries of a Danish missionary in Harput from 1907 to 1919. Maria and her trusted colleague, Karen Peterson, arrived in Beirut in 1922. They started, the first orphanage that Maria Jacobsen started in Lebanon was in 1922 in an area called Zouk Mikhail in Lebanon under her leadership. But soon they had to abandon because the lack of water. And we hear the first time about Danish bird's nest in Sidon was in a letter. This is a Danish newspaper that she published and said a letter in it. It says, a thank you letter for 5,000 kroner, which is equivalent to $22,000. The Danish Friends of Armenians was an organization dedicated to the Armenian relief and development that Karen Yeppe worked from 1903 all the way to 1935. And Maria Jacobsen represented the Danish branch of, and I don't want to try to read this, it's Kvindelmission Arbeider, which is Danish, which stands for KMA, Women Missionary Workers, who wrote Danish Home in Sidon, as you can see it in the pamphlet. It was a joy for me to receive the money and will do my very best to spend as you wished it for. There has been and there still is a lot of disease among the Armenian refugees in and around Beirut. Just about everyone has been infected with a very malicious form of malaria. I would like to ask if I can use part of this money to take children from very miserable homes into orphanages. The children will be so much better off here, and they have a better chance of regaining their strength if they come to us. I promise to write home and tell about some of these children who received help. And here I am, I'm transmitting her message again since 1923. The mother bird is Maria Jacobsen, of course, a missionary from Danish Lutheran Church, formerly stationed in Harput or Harpert. No mother with a group of children of her very own could give more loving atmosphere than Miss Jacobsen gives to this home. And when the children call her mama, there's a whole word of affection in their tones. I mean, all you gotta do is just look at the faces of the children to understand what is going on. In 2007, when I started my research, nobody in the Armenian community knew about Bird's Nest in Sidon. Unfortunately, they still do not know today. It was very disappointing to hear His Eminence, Mehrik Parikian, current director of Bird's Nest, on an MTV on May 2020, telling the history of the orphanage without being aware that for 5 years, between 1923 and 1928, Bird's Nest was in Sidon, where the most vulnerable population of over 400 Armenian toddlers were saved. Yes, over 400 little ones lived in this orphanage palace, because it is really a palace. They lived there for 4 or 5 years. How did I start into this? Karekin Dikran knew Maria Jacobsen, or Mama, personally from Bird's Nest, where he was a student for years. She arranged for him to study in Denmark, where he eventually settled. He shared the entire Bird's Nest photo archives with me, which included many Sidon Bird's Nest photos, which invoked my desire to identify the current location. Through the chairman of Near East Foundation, Shant Mardirosyan, I was introduced to David Mann, former pastor at Sunny Slope Mennonite Church, Indiana. He shared his mother's entire picture collection that she took during her stay in Beirut as a Near East Relief Secretary. It was time for me to locate Bird's Nest in Sidon for sure. In this picture, I'm holding in my hands the original entire Near East Relief Orphanage Operation Centers. A map, every single yellow on the map, with 58 centers stretching all the way from Turkey to Russia, to Georgia, Armenia, Baku, Iran, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, and Jerusalem. Sidon is highlighted with the red arrow, the location. Just to give you, Beirut is right here in the middle. So the original Bird's Nest is here, was in the south, which is 24 miles south. And then in 1928, they moved to north, which is 23 miles north of Beirut. And it still continues as of today in Jubail, north of Lebanon. It took me 4 months and multiple trips to south of Lebanon, scanning the streets, showing pictures, and asking people without any luck. But persistency always prevails. Then, on 28th of July, 2007, By pure luck, I saw the reference entrance arch. We're going to be talking about this entrance arch a lot of in the later time. The area has significantly changed, as you can see, from its 1920s. Mushrooming high-rise apartment buildings, roads, the entire neighborhood property is fenced. So, and we have large trees and, overgrown trees and greenery camouflaging walls. You could pass through the property and still not see anything, because this property, the orphanage, looks towards the Mediterranean and it's a downhill. So as you're passing through here, there is no way to see the actual building except when you enter, where you see this red arrow where the entrance is. It has a tiny entrance in the back. Once you enter, the whole horizon will open in front of you. As I said, by pure luck, the guard was exiting this main gate. This is the main gate here, and the street that you saw on the Google picture earlier. So if this door, these gates are not open, there is no way you can tell what's inside. The walls are high, the trees are covering. So as I was passing, as I said, the guard was exiting the doors, and I looked to my left and saw this wonderful arch. This was my reference entrance arch. And you will see later on why. The old picture on the right, it shows the palace. When you look from the arch, you see the palace or the orphanage. But today the entrance is covered with beautiful trees and flowers. You can't even see anything here. So if I didn't know, if I didn't remember the arch, as I looked from the entrance as was passing by, there was no way I could tell that this is what I was looking for. Having heart palpitation as I was walking through the entrance, as I was not sure if the palace was still there, the guard had me park my car outside the door, the property. Then slowly I started going around the corner. And as I passed behind the bushes, I saw the palace. Oh my God, there it was. I found the Sidon bird's nest. It was an amazing feeling to see this, because it's not a small building, it's a huge palace. And the first thing I noticed, I was very emotional. Look inside the star you see on the top of the building. There are little twigs and little branches of a bird's nest. They have built the nest, how appropriate for the original bird's nest of Sidon to have a real bird's nest built into the top of the building right inside the star. How the bird's nest name was born. On one Sunday, Maria Jakobson, as you can see in the picture, she stood on the steps of the new home surrounded by 400 orphans. In her hand, she had a bag filled of lollipops, candy, that she was going to distribute to them. The children immediately became excited and crowded around her. Anxious to reach her, they shouted, "Mama, Mama," and they stretched their hands out desperately, trying to grab a candy. Suddenly, the picture of the children with all their hands outstretched struck her with a vivid image. They are like newly hatched birds, she thought. From that day on, she named the new home the Bird's Nest. Touchnote's point is, through this picture, as you can see, the lollipops that she's handing, and the kids are having lollipop, and they were crying before. Nellie Miller visited Bird's Nest in Sidon, May 20th, 1923. And she wrote some letters back home to her parents. What a beautiful bird's nest it was. Once the home of a very wealthy pasha. How we happen to have this lovely home for our littlest orphanings is that the pasha died, and the heir of the property, finding himself in desperate financial straits, was compelled by these circumstances to lease the property at a very, very low price. You should see when Miss Jakobsen comes home to her 400 little ones, most of whom are 9 years old and under. She has about 75 in the kindergarten, and about 30 are under 4 years old, and one tiny baby of only 4 months old. It is a tremendous task to handle such fragile, tiny population of Armenian orphans. They look great in these pictures. They're all dressed up, their hairs are cut, they're, playing with tricycles and all that, having dinner and having plates and so forth. And this is Nellie Miller, by the way, and here too. How did they arrive to their orphanages? This is a real Near East relief presentation slide, which was used in the US for fundraising to all orphanages that Near East Relief was taking care of. And we are glad that it's in color. Take a look at the eyes and the dressing of every single child out in the picture. This is how they arrived at the orphanage doors. Prolonged starvation and malnutrition, lice in hair, favus on scalps, diarrhea, malaria, and other variations were so common. The terrible shape in which the orphans arrived to the gates of the orphanages was horrible, and they needed special treatment, special attention because of their vulnerability and their ages. Obviously, Mama in action, rebuilding lost generation, haircuts, cleaning lice, new dresses, new underwears, socks, and most of all, unconditional motherly love and attention to every single one of them. The American famous Dr. Esther Lovejoy from the American Women's Hospital visited Bird's Nest in Sidon Orphanage, where she asked Maria Jakobsen how many deaths she had during the year. It was very common. Orphans made it to orphanage and passed away after they arrived at the orphanage because of years of neglects, years of on the roads and in the deserts and malnutrition and the most vulnerable kids, obviously. Ms. Jakobsen said none. Dr. Lovejoy could scarcely believe what Maria said. But Maria Jakobsen said, I am a trained nurse. When the children came all the way down from Harput, remember 500 miles? Many of them were weak and sick with fever, but we nursed them back to health. And you can see them here, different ages, tiny ones, playing around. A Near East Relief photographer, Adelbert Bartlett from Santa Monica in California, he visited, and this is the balcony looking towards the Mediterranean. This is the Mediterranean Sea in the background. And sure enough, when he came home, he published in the Santa Monica Sunday Morning Outlook, April 11, 1926, and he used the same picture that he took in Sidon, Lebanon. At that time, it was part of Syria. That is why you would see places they say Sidon, Syria. But now, obviously, it's in Lebanon. Again, what does the magic of Maria Jakobsen loves do? Here it is, Nellie Miller in one of her letters. I have seen many children transform under Maria's love. Most of these babies were lumps of humanity with no expression, no vitality. One little boy, especially Ibrahim, was the dullest and most unenergetic of them all. He is this one here, the one kissing here. He couldn't laugh, not even smile. However, one could not live around Miss Jacobson very long without learning to laugh. She undertook to teach him to laugh. She would laugh heartedly, telling Ibrahim to do as she did. The effect was the weirdest expulsion of sound you would ever hear. One day, Miss Jacobson brought him to town in Beirut, and they were in my room getting ready, washing for dinner. They were chattering away in Armenian. The kids were chattering away together, when suddenly I was startled by a wild shout. Turning around, I said, "What in the world does that mean?" Miss Jacobson laughed. "He is imitating my laugh." Well, the transformation of the child is marvelous. After 6 months, he is lively, responsive, and is rather looked up to by all the other babies as a leader. He sings all the little kindergarten songs in Armenian, repeats the verses and the prayers as if his very life depended on him. And Ibrahim got noticed. In the New Near East, February 24, Valentine issue, was on the cover of the magazine and was used as a Near East Relief child fundraising campaign. A truckload of donation cases arrived at the Bird's Nest Orphanage in Sidon. The children are all joyous and excited. And please look at the arch. Remember the one with the flowers we saw early? Here's our reference arch. This is the key where I located the Sidon Orphanage. The date trees that you look around, you see the distribution of clothing, which probably came with the cases. The children are happy. The date trees are loaded and the kids are harvesting. Look at the smiles on their faces. They're collecting the dates from the trees. What was once forbidden, now it could be practiced freely. Look at the little smiley faces.
Can I get my picture out of here?
Maggie, we can hear you.
Sorry.
What was once forbidden, now it could be practiced freely. Look at the smiley faces. They're celebrating Christmas. And here again, about 350 children, Christian arrangements by kids lining up to wish Merry Christmas or cross or on Easter that Christ has risen. Harvesting fruit and then canning it, learning how to can fruit from the harvest that they collected. Children saying grace. This is a black and white photo, and this is a Near East Relief slide, which is in color. You see the same baby here, and then this one is over here in the other picture. Bible storytelling. So many babies, so many toddlers, so many kids, that daily laundry and food preparation was a big task. All the Myrigs, all the older girls were helping out, obviously, washing and preparing food. Mother Jacobson in charge of the birds. Nest Orphanage at Sidon is truly loved by her family of 400 children. Yet another proof about the Sidon Orphanage, Bird's Nest in Sidon. An old picture standing under the arch, looking, and there was the palace. You see, no greenery, no roads, nothing, no bushes at that time. As I said, it's a huge place, the Palace Orphanage. You would think, what are they doing on the ground here? You see all these dots that are lined up? They are preparing for dinner, where they're going to call the kids. They'll come and sit on the floor and eat. Their plates are on the floor. And this is how it looks now today. And here again, preparing for the food, all the myrigs with a big pail, they go around filling up the plates on the floor, and then when the kids will come and eat. It's very common in the Middle East to sit down and eat on the floor. The Bird's Nest Orphanage Palace in Sidon, before and after. Here are the 400 little ones right at the stairs in front of these arches. Count them, see how many out there. Look at their ages. The most vulnerable population of the Armenian population at that time. And here it is. It meant so much to stand on these same stairs in 2007. Same stairs and arches and pillars, obviously. Again, before and after, where Maria Jacobson is holding a baby, the same balcony where she was standing and looked at in the backyard. Again, the front, this is how it looks today, and it is all the same what it looked. The only difference is that there used to be a water fountain here, which was a very good thing for the kids to play around and with water or drink water. It's no more now, they have taken it out. The stairs in 1923 and the stairs in 2007. Here again, the front view where all the teacher or the myrigs, the helping ladies, and the 400 of them lined up all the way to the top, from the floor all the way back. Tidy outdoor beds at the Bird's Nest Orphanage. Fresh air was thought to promote good health in the orphans. This is where the beds were, and this is where it is today. See the arch. Would like to reserve a table for 400, please. An open restaurant for 400 little guests. And here again is our famous entrance arch. This one, a sports game between the White and the Reds. Current score is 87. The Whites are winning and the Reds are losing. They're 60. And here again, Armenian folk dance with the kids. They're all dressed up right there at the entrance arch. Mr. Glippinger, president of Otterbein College, he wrote an article in the Nuni Ris, and I'll read a few lines. Birds' nests usually have no more than 4 or 6 birds in them. The nest I saw in ancient Sidon has 407 little birds in it. These birds are babies and little children, and the nest is a beautiful mansion abandoned by some previously wealthy person and turned over to the Near East Relief to shelter these parentless babies. It overlooks the placid waters of the Mediterranean Sea and so forth. But here, you're going to see the actual footage, the children in Sidon, standing up right here in front of these two pillars and the entrance of the. So you would see this is the way the children arrived at orphanages holding pans to take food. And you will see how they are transformed later to clean babies. And this is the footage. See how they transfer? This is how they are in front of the doors. And then they'll be transformed. Here it is. Maria's tenderly loved herself, holding right in front at that door entrance. They have plates, they have spoons, they even have aprons, bibs. And here it is. Look, in front of the same, they're exercising, their sports, so they can stay healthy. Compare it here with that. See? The same location, stairs here, stairs here. The Druze family wants their mansion back. In 1928, the American Near East Relief Orphanage at Jubail in North Byblos was bought by the Danish KMA women missionary workers for $10,000, and the home is called Danish Bird's Nest. So on April 25th, 1928, the Bird's Nest officially moves from Sidon in the south to Jubail Byblos in the north. And this is where they're getting ready. Here's Maria Jacobson. Here are her little ones and the older ones. They're packing so that they can be moving out, going to their new orphanage up north, the new Bird's Nest. This concludes my first part of the presentation about Bird's Nest. And we're going to be going for the Sanjak camp right now. After visiting Sanjak camp in 2006, I prepared a photo story and posted it online. Where photos at the, when I posted it online, were photos of the last Armenian refugee camp in Beirut, Lebanon, Burj Hammoud, were displayed. 2 years later, the Daily Star of Lebanon, a newspaper, published an article saying Sanjak camp is disappearing. The expanding Beirut suburb of Burj Hammoud will consume a 20,000 square meter, an equivalent of 215,000 square feet area within the next few years, and in the process eliminate one of the last remaining Armenian refugee camps in Lebanon. Sanjak is being demolished to accommodate the growing population of Burj Hammoud and its busy shopping district. The Burj Hammoud municipality plans to replace Sanjak camp with Sanjak Plaza, a commercial and a residential center. Where did these people come? They were not there from 1915. These camps, because on June 29, 1939, at the dawn of World War II, France relinquished the Syrian port city of Alexandret, which became Iskenderun, to Turkey. Later, Sanjak of Alexandret was renamed and is currently known as Hatay province of Turkey. Lately, you heard a lot about Beirut and its explosion. About 6 weeks ago, on August 4, 2020, a large amount of ammonium nitrate stored at the port of city of Beirut, right here, and this is the epicenter, Sanjak camp is right here in Dot, is about 1.5 miles or equivalent of 2.5 kilometers away from the center of the explosion. And this blue sign here is a building next to the Sanjak camp. It just happened again by pure luck. A friend of mine from Canada sent me a video of what happened at the moment of the explosion. So please take note, this is going to be, a terrible explosion and the sound might be loud. So the video is being taken from this blue sign building towards the port where the fire has already started, only 6 weeks ago. And here we go. It was a horrible explosion. It disabled many of the buildings. And there was a live transmission. Professor Elise Semerjian in an article says, Sanjak camp is an easy place to miss. It's tucked back behind a bustling shopping center in Burj Hammoud and next to a high-speed traffic along the Karantina Highway. It's one of the last standing Armenian refugee camps in Burj Hammoud. However, it was not created in the wake of 1915 Armenian genocide, like many of the other camps were. Instead, its residents were refugees from the 1939 Turkish annexation of Alexandretta. The name Sanjak means province and refers to the lost Sanjak of Alexandretta, from which the original Armenians of Sanjak camp hail. The camp lies ironically behind the building that houses the Burj Hammoud municipality. Before its demolition, Sanjak camp contained about 300 shops and homes that housed about 160 families. This is the area of Sanjak of Alexandretta. On June 29, 1939, at the dawn of World War II, France relinquished the Syrian port city of Iskenderun. And Sanjak of Alexandria is currently Turkish Hatay province located southeast on the Mediterranean Sea, right here in the red box, Iskenderun. But Iskenderun has seen the multi-waves of refugees. And it's so ironic that multi-waves of refugees came to Alexandrette. First, in 1909, after the Adana massacres. Second, in 1918, after Mudros agreement when Turkey lost World War II. And third, in 1922 to 1923, from Cilicia and other parts of Turkey, all came to Alexandretta. Why? Because Alexandretta had a mandate and it was under the French mandate, thinking that this was going to be their last destination. But unfortunately, they found out in 1939 that they had to move again, and this time they moved to Lebanon. This is an Armenian refugees in 1923. I want you to take notice, look at the houses, look at how it's covered with thin sheets of metal and side wooden. Same thing here, because you're going to see the same type of housing in Beirut, in Burj Hammoud, all the way until 2017. A friend of mine who saw that I have a presentation today, 2 days ago, from Paris, France, Bardi Kuyumjan, sent 24 photos that he has taken during his photography courses back in 1985. So you can see how the wooden houses and covered in just exactly like 1923 back in Alexandretta. And here's a comparison between one of Bardik's photos in 1985 and one that I took in 2006, the same location, the same window, and the same place in Sanjak camp. Another before and after. And here we go. According to Bardik, the owner of this large warehouse, Nubar Vartanian, was a previous resident of Sanjak camp just across the street. So here's the camp and here's his warehouse. So after being a refugee in this camp, he made his way to wealth and built this warehouse. I'm going to taking you a tour inside the camp when I took pictures in 2006 and 2007. You can see an open sewage in the alleys. Streets and alleys in Sanjak camp, open sewage, a small club where they have a billiard table, people avoiding to show their faces because I was taking pictures. Life at the camp. Kids grow and play, garbage thrown. It says Salon Michel. It's a hairdresser. And inside, some homes. This is all recycled material. These wooden planks and this metal. And I'll show you in a minute from what. These wood, you can see the planks, each one is different sizes, odd sizes, patched together because they're made from, wooden crates and oil cans. How much I wished, and I told them in 2006 and 7 that Burj Hamud municipality could have kept one of these Sanjak camp houses as a museum, which could have been a tourist attraction preserving Armenian heritage. How much I wished they left one house as a museum to show for coming generations. Why? Because look at this wooden houses with metal sheet roofs. Standard Oil, American company, which used to ship oil all across the world and especially the Middle East in these cans. What they did, they cut the top and the bottom of the can and then sliced it, and they opened it up. So you see these each one is a can which is slide open to use it as sidewalls. And these are wooden crates that they took apart and put together to have a window. Recycling at its best. Notice the inconsistency of wood sizes, as different wood crates made the sidewalls. Mother and daughter, 2 generations in Sanjak camp. Read their eyes. Do you see anything? Do you see how they traveled all the way from Alexandria and ended up here in Burj Hamud? Obviously, their parents and multi-generations. I entered one of the homes. One side of the room, the mother was crushing garlic. And on this other side of the room, her son was building the Titanic. It's such a, contradictory, such a dichotomy. One is crushing garlic in a refugee camp, and look at the details of this Titanic that her son was building. And he was such a handicraft and precision compared to the Titanic itself. Later in 2007 and 2008, parts of Sanjak camp was razed to the ground and gradually making way to new roads and buildings and public park. This is the panoramic Sanjak camp view that does not exist in 2020 anymore. This is all gone. These are multi pictures from same spot in 2006, 7, and 8. But all this has disappeared. This is the ARF Tashnak Party Club in the camp with the flag and the entrance door. And another poster in 2006, it read, commemorating of Armenian genocide, 91 years struggle until victory. General March, we do not beg for justice, we fight for it, as the sign read. Most families in the camp reported that they were receiving about $3,000 to $5,000 as compensation from the municipality, which is better than nothing, obviously, but still not enough to purchase even the simplest apartment in Burchamut. Camp houses. As I was taking this picture, I was wondering, could this be the last generation of Sanjak camp? The kid waving at me on a bicycle? Renato Obeid, in February 27, 2017, published an article. The rubble of what was left of the last remaining Armenian refugee camp in the world, raised last week to make way for a commercial and residential center, 10 years on the drawing board. It's sad to see the filth of diaspora dreams. Excuse me. The land had originally been farmland. Excuse me. Ronaldo, excuse me, I lost my voice. In 2017, artisan shoemaker and third generation Sanjak camp, Rafi Pambukyan at his new workshop, following last month's leveling of the world's last remaining Armenian refugee camp. The slogan on the wall is for impatient clients who think Rafi can whip up a design just like that. But Sanjak camp is right here. Across the highway, there's another camp that I found out. It's called Dohuz Aylek. I was surprised why a camp is called by a name. In Red Circle, Dohuz Aylek in Turkish, which means 9 months, is the name of about 10 houses of a small camp across the highway. I asked, why is it called Dohuz Aylek? The neighboring 9 months camp across the highway, which is yet another small refugee camp of 10 houses, was originally intended as a transit camp to allow the residents to repatriate to Soviet Armenia in 1946 and 47. Excuse me. In nine months, another ship was supposed to pick them up and take them to repatriate them to Soviet Armenia, which never happened. And Dohuz Aylek became an extension of Sanjak camp. More houses. This proud lady from Kharpert, her grandfather's brother was the famous Father Kelechian Efendi Misakian, who was to be hung from the gallows at the last minute. The Turks, for some reason, didn't hang him, as she says. We were from Upper Mezire in Kharpert. And here is how she said it.
Anun inche norengse kavcik urderenem veri mezraen. Yevin çekalda karanin namar. Ayo. Aşuş.
So here she told that her relative, the Turks stopped hanging him for some reason, and he was a clergyman, obviously. And this is her house, the window covering from outside and how it looked from inside. The homophone of changing Sanjak camp to Sanjak Plaza. This is the plan, how it was supposed to look. Plans of the new Sanjak site, meaning Surpagop, ironically called Sanjak Plaza, the homophone of Sanjak will have some artisan shops and other businesses on the bottom floor. Above the shops will be residences for low-income housing for Burj Hammoud's working classes. So these apartments, 185 of them, were going to be reoccupied. This is the start of reconstructing the new project, and you see the demolition of Sanjak camp as it looked last. Construction day and night. This whole area that you see was Sanjak camp, those old houses that they demolished, and they started building the parking lots, and then they're going to be building Sanjak Plaza becomes a reality. Here it is. The buildings are up, parking in front, the highway, and this is the port where the explosion happened. The camp has completely vanished. And this is the last part. May 2020 on MTV Lebanon, in the Armenians of Lebanon program, special program, Mardik Bogosian, Burj Hammoud city mayor, spoke about Sanjak Plaza home, 285 apartment buildings, landscaped area, and badly needed multi-story parking garages. And this is going to be, this was the park, the camp, the city mayor of Burj Hammoud, and drone pictures, video as it was being built up. And this concludes last camp called Sanjak Camp, October 23rd, 2006 picture. The camp has completely vanished now. Thank you very much for your attention.
Misak, thank you very much for presenting an unbelievable wealth of material about these two locations and sort of the living memory of these two places. I want to pose a question to you that has been sent in by one of the viewers. Maybe it's a fundamental question. Can you explain or clarify for those who are not so familiar maybe with the geography of Armenians in Beirut. Are you saying that Armenians were, that this refugee camp was still being inhabited by Armenians, in some cases descendants of perhaps the original inhabitants, down to just a few years ago, correct?
That is correct. There's this different generation of refugees who arrived from Sanjak originally, continued living all the way to 2000 and like 16 was the last time they started demolishing the refugee camps. Yes, all the pictures with people inside the camp were Armenians that I spoke to them.
And how was the transformation of that space viewed? How was it received by the people who were living there?
Obviously, the population is poor, not very well doing, and the municipality of Burj Hamid offered them $3,000 to $5,000 at that time. I mean, for today, with the economical situation in Lebanon, that would be extremely a lot of money. But at that time, it was not enough for them to buy another, another apartment, with that money to continue their lives. So it was hard for them to move, obviously. But also, having roughly 160 families there to provide them, money to encourage them to leave was a big budget for the city as well.
Mm-hmm. Another question about going back to the first part of the presentation on the bird's nest. Do you know who the current owners are, and are they aware of the history of the building? Is there any memorial plaque at the location as well?
Yes, I know who the owners are. They are owned by a Druze family. And the Druze family in Lebanon is very known by two families. One is the Jumblat family, and the other is the Arslan family. Usually they fight with each other, but this palace is owned by a reunion of these two families, marriage, I mean. And I do have the name somewhere because when I went there, they didn't know about it. And the old picture of the palace was my key to let me in. They are very, reserved. They don't let anybody because it's in a neighborhood. As I said, it's all covered. It's private. It's covered with shrubs and palm trees and all that. You don't see what's behind those walls. And it was that my old picture of the palace that got the guard interested. And he let me in. And I told them, obviously, why I was there, what I was doing this and all that. And over the years, I didn't go back again because they were not as helpful. But fortunately, back a couple of years back, when Shant Mardirosyan for Near East Foundation, he wanted to make the famous DVD that Near East Relief made a few years back. I helped them out. I gave direction to a friend of mine, Garo Derunian, and give them the maps where the orphanage was. And he was able to go there and knock the door, ring the bell. They didn't respond. Eventually, somebody opened the door, and they were reluctant to let them in. Eventually, they did let them in, and they were able to film footage inside. So that's how it is. But there's no plaque or anything. As I said, the Armenian population of Lebanon, even the current owners of Bird's Nest, they don't know that the original Bird's Nest was in Sidon for 5 years.
So you're saying that the current owners of that house were not familiar with the history of the building?
No, they're not. And actually, I found another footage, like less than a minute, as the British and French armies were entering from Palestine, going north to Lebanon, and the Turks were withdrawing. That same palace became the headquarters of the British Army. The footage that I have, and if you want, if you have time, it's less than a minute, I can show you the military in that in that palace. But definitely the current owners are not aware of because it's new generation, and I'm sure hope the current owners of Bird's Nest will go visit, introduce them, and do plaque and do homage for that, definitely. But this is my homage to Maria Jacobson and her unspeakable work that she's done all the way from Harper to Lebanon, and even she's buried in with her kids in Byblos in Bird's Nest National Point now, where there's a new museum, obviously, which was out of my scope for this presentation.
Is there a list of the orphan children who were at the original Bird's Nest?
No, unfortunately, there isn't. But there is a list that has been compiled in later years. Beginning 1925. I have a list of those orphan children, which are the ones in Jebel in Byblos. But not. I'm sure part of them were who came originally from Sidon itself, which was in the south.
There's a question about other locations. Have you conducted research on other neglected heritage sites, such as the previously Armenian inhabited El Bus camp in Tyre?
I was aware of that camp, which is now, it's actually a military Palestinian refugee camp. That was also in Tyre, or Sur as they call it today in Arabic. I did not have, because there are constantly kind of wars and things going on, but it was on one of my lists. But then I moved to the US, and I didn't finish going there, but knowing that I know where it was. It's called Miye refugee camp. It's a Palestinian camp as of today.
See. So a follow-up question on the Sanjak camp. So I don't know if you can answer this, Misak, or not, but were efforts made by the Armenian community, the larger Armenian community in Beirut, and Armenian organizations to help the members of the community who were still living in the refugee camp?
I am not aware if there were work done, but I know a lot of Christian organizations, including Armenian ones, were helping people to help them out in the camp. But I don't know if they helped them out going to other places, because at the end years, a lot of foreign people started entering the camps as well, because it's basically a slump, right? And not too well doing are living there, and a lot of migrant workers and stuff, and a lot of not good things, trying to avoid that, situation, and building the plaza building to the compound, because Burj Hamid is running out of space on parking and apartments as well. So the municipality bought that land from the original owners in like 15, 20 years ago, and then made plans to build this, and this is how it looks today.
Question about on the first part of the presentation, maybe you said this, but perhaps you can clarify. What
Sure.
were your sources for the visual materials that you used? Not of course the photographs you took yourself, but the
Right.
archival pictures.
The two archival, first of all, I have a eagle eye to spot architectural signs or buildings or monuments and go after them. Same thing was for me for Antura. Same thing was for Ghazir, where the White House carpet was woven. I always look at historical pictures, and I try to locate where they are by comparing them, at the same angles. My sources, as I mentioned, was Kelechian Dikran, who was an orphan himself in Bird's Nest in Jubail and older area. He had a collection of the whole actually archive that he collected from the Danes themselves, the Danish organization in Denmark himself. And then obviously a lot of the help I also received from the Danish historian Matthias, who helped me out from translating the Danish writings and leaflets and stuff. When he came to Beirut, we worked together and we discussed all this. So that was helpful. And finally, it was when Shant Marderosian from Near East Foundation, he introduced me to the Near East worker, Nellie Miller's son, who gave his collection as well. So Kelechian's notes did say Sidon Bird's Nest, nothing else. And Matthias's, Danish archive material also spoke about the orphanage, because it wasn't just 1 year, it was like 5 years. That's a long time they lived there. And finally, Nellie Miller's letters. I literally had letters in my hand and driving in Sidon, trying to compare, like one of them says, olive orchards near the orphanage. So I took that and I did find that olive orchard, because as you know, olive orchards live forever. In Jerusalem today, the same olive trees live. So I use references like that to locate or corner where that palace could have been, but I thought it didn't exist. I was like, it can't be, it lasted so long. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I was saying a palace like that it's not a small place. It's a huge place. It can't be that it disappeared. And as I was having that thought and I was driving, and that guard opened the door, there it was. And I saw the arch. I didn't see the actual orphanage building. It's that arch in my mind and that reference that, oh my God, this is it. I literally slammed my brakes, pulled my car, and ran across the street to talk to the guard, because he was about to close the door back again with the map of all building. And that's how I got in. I kind of sneaked in. He didn't want to let me in, trust me. I had to really push back to let me in.
It's good that you did. So is it correct then that many of those photographs that you showed are
Yes,
not otherwise published?
The ones that I showed you in my presentation, the ones from far afar, and people, and Nellie Miller donated, her son, donated the pictures to Hushamadian. Vahid Hashtian has them on his site as well, and the letters as well. So folks that are interested could follow up and learn. And her son, David Mann, who I communicated so many times with him. I actually found his mother's house in Beirut itself as well, which used to be the US Embassy, how it looked today. And he published his mom's letters and pictures in a book back in 2013, which could be, for people who are interested, can research and follow up. But for me, this is puzzle, putting pieces together to bring up story, set up so that the Armenian history is left with audiovisual backing. That is my forte. This is, if you look at all my presentation, this is what I do.
Another question, perhaps you can clarify about the chronological relationship between Burj Hamud and Sanjak camp. The understanding from the questioner is that Burj Hamud was established by Armenians from Marash in the 1920s, and Sanjak camp, therefore, it comes at a later date?
1939. Yes, of course. First of all, Burj Hamud was all farming fields. I have photographs which shows, actually aerial photographs shows that. And because it's near the port or landing spots of ships, as they landed in Lebanon port, all the other camps, there were several camps. Burj Hamud was only one of them. And there was farmland, and people occupied the places, and as refugees came in and built shacks and houses, there were multi-camps there. There was the ones from Marash, there was a Tiro camp, which is currently Shazoyan Getron, where Aztec newspaper used to be Tiro camp. Tiro meaning in French where you go pigeon hunting. It was like a place where you hunt next door, which is adjacent to Sanjak camp. So each camp started having Sis camp, Adana camp, Marash camp, all their home cities. They broke them to call them New Sis, Nor Marash, Nor Adana, just like that. So, but obviously the refugees that came from Alexandret, which part of them also, all the Anjarches came with that 1930 and 39 exodus as well, which the French helped them, give them land up in Anjar, where there's a big community there too, as of today. It's so, and Alexandret Sanjak is where Musa Dar and is. So it's that area where all the refugees came. But for me, it was very strange as this Dokuzaylik one, the Turkish one. And I was like, why is it called in a Turkish name? And what does a 9-month mean? I kept on asking. And one of them was told me, yeah, because they wanted to repatriate to Armenia when Stalin opened the door for repatriation, with boats coming from Soviet Armenia to move them. And those families were stuck there temporarily. They told them that in 9 months, there would be another boat and they will leave, which is very interesting.
Have you done research on the Antilles orphanage?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I am the one with Viken Babkenyan in Australia. We were the two crazy ones that we did on Antilles, and I have given a presentation which is on YouTube. It was a Near East, orphanage run by the Australasian, which means Australia and New Zealand. Were running the Australasian orphanage in Antilles. And I was lucky enough in Los Angeles to interview a survivor from the orphanage in Antilles, and it's on YouTube. It's available.
Great. Misak, I want to then join with the people who have sent in comments thanking you for your presentation and for all of your research and material that you've presented today, and say thank you very much for sharing it with us and educating us and sharing the enthusiasm of your detective work as well.
Yeah, thank you. And I would like to, thank Nasser, obviously, for inviting me, as well as Ararat Eskijian for a wonderful team to tell one of my stories.
We appreciate it. And thanks for everybody who's joined us today on Zoom and on YouTube. And for those of you who missed it or maybe missed part of it, it will be available on the Nasser YouTube channel, hopefully in perpetuity.
Thank you.
If we all make it to perpetuity. So thank you again, and see you next time.
Thank you for inviting me.